In the small villages nestled along Mexico's Rio Grande, stories of La Llorona, the weeping woman, have been passed down from generation to generation. Some say she is just a myth, a tale told to keep children close and to remind them to stay away from the riverbanks at night. But those who live in the shadow of the river know better. They know that La Llorona is no myth, and that her weeping echoes through the valley, even on the quietest of nights. It was a warm autumn evening when Sofia, a young woman, and her family moved to a small house just outside the village of San Juan. They had heard the stories about La Llorona, but Sofia dismissed them as superstition. Her family had relocated to this quiet place to escape the bustle of the city, hoping to find peace and simplicity in the countryside. But that first night, Sofia would learn just how wrong she was. The moon hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the landscape. The night was still, except for the occasional chirp of crickets and the distant rustling of leaves in the wind. As Sofia sat near the window, staring out at the river that ran through the valley, a strange feeling crept over her. It was as if the night itself was holding its breath. She shook off the unease and went to bed, but as she lay in the darkness, she began to hear it. A faint sound at first, like the sobbing of a woman in the distance. It was soft, almost imperceptible, but it was unmistakable. The sobs seemed to float on the night air, carried by the wind, coming from somewhere near the river. Sofia tried to convince herself it was just the wind or some animal, but the sound grew louder, more insistent, until it was all she could hear. The wailing seemed to pierce the night, the mournful cry of a woman lost in sorrow. She pulled the covers over her head, hoping the sound would stop, but it only grew stronger. The sobbing was now accompanied by a low, anguished wail, like a mother calling for her lost child. Her heart raced as the wailing grew louder still. Desperate, she rushed to the window, pulling back the curtains to see if anyone was out there. But the only thing she saw was the river, its dark waters reflecting the pale light of the moon. The air was thick with tension, and for a moment, Sofia wondered if she had imagined it all. But then, she saw something that made her blood run cold. There, standing by the river's edge, was a woman. She was draped in a long white dress, her long black hair falling in tangled strands around her face. Her figure was obscured in the shadows, but Sofia could see her faintly through the mist that seemed to rise from the river. The woman was weeping, her sobs echoing across the valley. She had her arms stretched out in front of her, as if searching for something or someone. Sofia's breath caught in her throat as the woman's face turned toward her, and for a brief moment, their eyes met. The woman's eyes were hollow, empty like the eyes of a corpse. There was a deep sorrow in them, but also a twisted, unnatural rage. The woman's mouth opened in a silent scream, her face contorting in anguish. Before Sofia could react, the figure disappeared into the mist, vanishing as quickly as it had appeared. The weeping continued, but now it seemed to be moving, as if the woman was walking toward her house. Terrified, Sofia bolted from the window and ran to her parents' room. She woke them, shaking with fear, but they dismissed her worries as nothing more than an overactive imagination. Her father explained that the stories of La Llorona were old tales meant to frighten children, but Sofia knew what she had seen, and she knew that what she had heard was no mere story. The next morning, Sofia ventured to the village to seek answers. An elderly woman named Dona Maria, known for her knowledge of the old stories, was the one to tell her the truth. La Llorona is the spirit of a woman who drowned her children in the river long ago. Dona Maria explained, her voice low and serious. She was a mother consumed by jealousy and rage, driven to madness by the loss of her husband. In her grief, she took her children and threw them into the river, watching them drown. But she could not bear the weight of her actions. She tried to save them, but it was too late. Now, she is condemned to walk the earth for eternity, searching for her lost children. Her cries are the sound of a mother's agony, and she will call to any child she comes across, hoping to find her own again. Sofia shuddered at the story, realizing the woman she had seen by the river had been La Llorona herself. The weeping spirit was not just a myth. She was real, and she roamed the countryside, forever searching for the children she had killed. That night, as Sofia lay in bed, she heard it again, the familiar sound of weeping, this time much closer. It seemed to be coming from the direction of the river, but this time, it was different. The sound was not just the sorrowful wail of a woman, but the pleading cry of a mother, desperate and searching. Sofia's heart pounded as the weeping grew louder, and then, just as before, she saw the figure. La Llorona stood by the river once more, her eyes locked on Sophia's. The air was heavy with the scent of the water, and the wind carried the weight of her endless sorrow. This time, she did not disappear. She moved closer, her form becoming clearer as she neared the house, her mournful cry growing louder and louder. Sophia knew she could not escape the spirit. The river's call was too strong, the sorrow too deep. La Llorona would never stop searching.